In this video, I like to clarify some key concepts which we use in competency mapping, 360-degree feedback, assessment centers, recruitment, performance appraisals, and a whole lot of other things in human resources. For long ago, sometime in mid 50s, actually the exercise started in the Second World War, but completed sometime by mid 50s. Benjamin Bloom's categorization of the educational objectives. He categorized, he and his team categorized all the educational objectives into three broad categories. They were called, the first category is cognitive domain, which deals with largely knowledge, information, conceptualization, attitudes, and other things got classified under affective domain, because affective domain deals with emotions. Attitudes, large part of them are emotions, not on the basis of knowledge, beliefs, and a whole lot of things. And the third set of educational objectives he called as cognitive, action, skills, and so on. In the olden days, a good part of the term that were used were knowledge. What is the knowledge required to perform a particular job or an activity? What are the attitudes that are required, and what are the skills? Knowledge, attitude, skills. I think these were the three terms used almost till about mid 70s, for over 20 years. Sometime in mid 70s, that was the time when McClellan wrote an article testing for competence rather than intelligence. Intelligence is a cognitive phenomena. Same way, I mean, there are right and wrong answers. Anyway, creativity is also a divergent thinking. It's a thinking, cognitive kind of ability. Partly, I think abilities, when they are put into use, along with attitudes, I think they determine the outcomes. And of course, skill is required. So normally, a competency is a combination of knowledge, attitude, skills, plus maybe something more. So that is when McClellan came up with this classification of the term competence to include knowledge, attitude, skills, motives, values, traits, and self-concept. It includes a whole lot of things, and these are nothing but a way of classifying the qualities required. Now again, I am using the term qualities. Qualities required to perform a job very well. In the absence of any better term, I am using qualities, but actually when you say competencies or qualities, it means knowledge or attitudes or skills, motives, values, traits, you can use the term, and a combination of all these. And of course, McClellan uses the term self-concept. Competencies also could use a new term. That is why I think whenever competencies are mapped for an organization, this is contextual. It depends on the context of the organization. The same thing, vision for a pharma company is different for a vision for an IT company, which is different for the vision for government, for a hospital, for an educational institution, and so on. So he should be a visionary. When you say the person should have vision, the actual indicators of that vision will vary from context to context. The kind of things that characterize a visionary in a pharmaceutical company versus an IT company versus a hospital versus an educational institution or a manufacturing company or anywhere will be identified as the indicators. What are the indicators that he is a visionary in this particular kind of a setting and so on? That is why in competencies, the indicator becomes very, very important part of it. In the olden days, we used the term qualities, but now the term qualities has really got replaced. In fact, I must introduce to you another term in mid 70s we liberally used was the term attributes. In the absence of, by the time competency term has not become popular. So in doing job analysis, we use it to say, what are the key attributes required to perform this job? An attribute is almost similar to competence, but attribute, I mean, it's a simple English term. What are the knowledge, attitude, skills, values, motives, etc. required? So instead of attributes, today we use the term. But I think it is only a question of timing. Olden days qualities, later knowledge, attitude, skills, later I think the term competencies, which replaced the term attributes. I hope I have now made it very clear. I think today the term competence in this particular last 2-3 decades comes to represent all the qualities, which means what is the knowledge required, what is the attitude required, what are the skills required, etc. etc. So the term competency or competence is a much larger, much broader kind of a term. Now, how do you decide competency and what is the context? The context is provided by the organization and the job. Job has a variety of tasks associated with it. The tasks may keep on changing. The tasks are also called as key performance areas nowadays. About 40 years ago, when KPAs or KRAs were just becoming popular, we used the term task. Task is a lot more specific. Now, see the simple English language. Task is something which you are expected to do. It is a category of activities. The term key performance area is something. That means a set of tasks that are associated with a key responsibility or a performance or a key result. This is another term that you use. So KPA, KRA, tasks. And of course, targets is another thing. The targets are simply question of the with the time frame, what is it that you are expected to visibly accomplish. Now, that is a separate kind of a thing that we use. So tasks and tasks are broader, but KPAs are even broader. Key performance areas. What are the areas where you need to perform? Like a branch manager of a bank, one of the key performance areas is customer mobilization or customer satisfaction or customer relations. You can put it in a broad way. Customer relations, a whole lot of activities may be involved. Similarly, housekeeping, he has to make sure all the records are balanced, a whole lot of things. A lot of activities are involved. Housekeeping or motivating and managing staff, HR of the staff. That is another KPA, key performance area. Or linkages, liaison with the regional office, managing or supply of information. It can be a key performance area or management of information. You can put it in your own way. So key performance area is a category of tasks, is a set of tasks that you are required to perform. Each task has activities. So if you look at a hierarchy, you have a KPA, you have a task, and you have an activity. We eliminated the term tasks in between because a KPA is broad enough and the activities sometimes can be broad enough. Now, for each activity to be performed, you need competencies, knowledge, attitude, skills, etc. etc. For example, for customer orientation, showing customer relations, or managing customer relations for a branch manager of a bank, or anybody you can take for a administrator of a hospital, means it includes, I think, having a list of potential customers, managing the list of potential customers, meeting customers, solving the problems of customers, listening to the customers, anticipating the issues from the customers. So you can list easily about 15-20 different activities that are involved for managing customer relations of a branch manager. These are called activities. These activities can be grouped into a few categories, and then you can have tasks. Like for a branch manager, you can have customer management of walk-in customers, or meeting customer management of people who are potential customers. Another category kind of a thing. So you can have 2-3 different kind of tasks in relation to customer relations as well. It's all a question of language. It's a question of framework. Normally, we nowadays simplify the whole thing. We simplify it to say that every job can be broken down into a series of tasks. If you don't use the term task, let's say Oprah friends, you key tasks. Instead of task, you say KPAs. Or those who believe in the management by objectives tradition would use the term key responsibility areas or key result areas. Olden days in MBO, you use both these kind of terms. with very small difference. The difference is responsibility talks of what you are expected to do, results talks of what you are expected to get. Normally, when you put tasks, then you also put key performance indicators. What are the indicators that he has achieved this task, which are equivalent to targets, more or less equivalent to targets. Uh, so for any job, you break it down into a series of activities. Group these activities into either tasks or KPAs or KRAs, whatever is the term that you use. Use only one term. Don't use all these. Either tasks or KPAs or KRAs. One of the three. So a group of activities becomes a KRA, a KPA, or a task, and the competencies required to perform this, that is the knowledge required, attitudes required, skills required, traits required, motivation required, values required, and also the kind of self concept according to McClelland's theory required, they all constitute competencies. So you have to identify competencies. But how do you identify competencies? You'll have to look at the activity and look at when can we say this particular activity is performed well. What are the indicators? Sometimes doing the activity itself is an indicator. For example, meets customers enthusiastically, meets new customers enthusiastically, or goes out of way to find out the potential customers, or tries to understand the problems of the customer, or tries to look for solutions of the problems of the customer. These are all indicators. The indicators are normally observable. It is the indicators which give you an idea about how well this particular competency is being exhibited, how well the person is performing that particular task or KPA associated with it. Of course, you will have key performance indicators and so on. I think over a period of time, last 60 to 70 years, beginning 1950 to 53 is almost about 70 to 80 years since the time the first taxonomy of educational objectives came into picture. Our knowledge and understanding of what we today call as competencies has marvelously gone up. And so we don't need to be confused with all of it. The term competency is a broader term. Whenever you talk of competency, competencies are contextual. It depends on the context of the job, context of the company, context of even the country, and so on. That is the reason why you have to define a competency, and you define the competency by incorporating in the definition the indicators of that particular competence. Define it, and if it is if there are too many indicators, make a broad definition of the competence, and then come up with a list of indicators in that particular context which the individual should exhibit or the role holder should exhibit, so that they could be identified. Once you understand these fundamentals, I think all the rest of it becomes simpler. If you are sitting in a job interview to recruit somebody, your interview questions should deal with finding out which of the indicators are available either in the knowledge base, the degrees of the individual, experience base of the individual, or in the psychological repertoire of the individual. So your interviews could focus on him. The psychometric test you use can focus upon identifying the indicator, the extent to which the individual possesses the knowledge or the skill or the attitudes and things of that kind. Performance appraisal also has the same kind of a thing. In performance appraisal, you have KPAs, KRAs, indicators. In addition, corporations want to make sure that the individual, while performing the job, also exhibits certain kind of competencies. And the same things are used for potential appraisal. In an assessment center, all the exercises are designed on the basis of the indicators. And simulated settings are created to see whether the individual shows these indicators or not. Same indicators are used as items in a 360-degree feedback. So I hope now this clarifies to you the understanding and the significance of indicators, competencies, tasks, and KPAs, KRAs, and a whole lot of other things in competency mapping. So I hope you enjoy your competency mapping exercises.